Grade 12 CAT, Hardware Recommendations, Part A. This is Module 1.3. We're going to talk about how you should go about buying a computer. There's some general considerations that you could think about when buying a computer. Does it need to be mobile or can it be a fixed device? Make sure you get the hardware specifications of the software you want to use. If it's for gaming, you will probably need quite a powerful computer, for example. Look at the current standard specifications for an entry-level and a more advanced computer in the category that you're considering. And is there a legal operating system that is provided with the computer you're planning to buy? It's always a good idea to get the operating system with the device, as it usually is cheaper. Always buy the best product that your budget will allow. The RAM must be installed, the size of the storage, and the type of processor. These are the three main things you will look at. If you buy an underpowered device, you will probably regret it a little bit later. So let's look at the system unit. That's the CPU or the processor. Remember, the CPU is responsible for running programs and for processing all the data on the computer. So the speed of the CPU is important. This is usually measured in gigahertz, always measured in gigahertz. It'll be 2 or 3 or 3.6, something like that, gigahertz. A CPU with many cores, for example a quad core, means that you have more than one processor on the chip and it will make your processor faster. It's good to get a brand name like an AMD or an Intel because those are going to work properly. Whereas if you get a smaller name that's not well known, you might not have a very decent CPU. It's also good to get a good model that is well known, like an Intel i7, and that can be used to identify the processor in an advert. Standard entry-level processors should be sufficient for personal users, SOHO users. Remember, SOHO is small office, home office, and for mobile users. But again, be careful, test the device before you buy it, because if you buy it underpowered, you will be very unhappy later. And power users need to get the best CPU they can afford. Remember, a power user is someone like an architect or a professional gamer, somebody who does a lot of scientific calculations and so on. Maybe someone also who does a lot of multimedia processing. So the next thing that is important is the memory or the RAM. Remember, RAM is a temporary storage area for data and programs that are being processed currently on your computer. RAM, other names for RAM is the DIMM or DDR3 or DDR4 RAM. If you use more than 4 GB of RAM, you must make sure that you are using a 64-bit version operating system. Otherwise, you won't be able to access the entire amount of RAM you have. And for any user, the more memory you have installed, the better. Power users working with programs such as those used for video editing will definitely require more memory, more than 4 GB. I think these days on most computers 4 GB is the standard. Again, another device that is important is the hard disk drive. It's usually abbreviated HDD in adverts. This is the main permanent storage area for all your data and software. A special computer like a file server in a network needs to have a number of large hard drives because it has to store all the user's files. Besides the capacity, hard drives can be identified in adverts by terms such as SATA and the speed at which it rotates. This is usually measured in RPM. The capacity is the important thing, though. It's usually about 500 gigabytes or 1 terabyte on most computers, entry-level computers these days. Another technology that is taking over from hard disk drives is a solid disk drive. And it's really like having a giant flash memory stick, but it's inside your computer, and it is much faster than a hard disk drive. Most users will never fill their hard drive that they buy with their computer. Power users may need to install a series of hard drives that act as one unit, and this is sometimes referred to as RAID technology. The DVD drive. This is an optical drive that can play, read and write CDs and DVDs. These are becoming a little bit obsolete because you can download all the software you want off the internet, and you also, these days, you do not back up or put data much on DVDs or CDs. You'd rather use a flash drive, an external hard drive, and even on the internet as well. Often these drives are listed as multi-drives because they can read and write DVDs and CDs. Next are the ports on your computer. These are all the places where you can plug something in. They're used to connect external devices to the computer. So most devices these days can connect with a USB port. And most computers will have a network port to connect to a cabled network. That's like the bottom left, the blue one, the blue port. And modern computers can also have Firewire or Thunderbolt, and that is for high-speed data and video communications. And Wi-Fi is not technically a port, but many computers now have built-in support for Wi-Fi. Let's start talking about the peripherals that will plug into your computer. The mouse and the keyboard, these are the most common. Ergonomically designed keyboards and mice reduce the impact of RSI, which is repetitive strain injury. That is when you get aches and pains in your wrists and in your hands. And ergonomics means that the keyboard and mouse are designed to specially be comfortable for the human body to use. So you might get a keyboard that is slightly curved so that the hands are at a more comfortable angle, for example. You can get wireless or cabled equipment. Wireless is when you need batteries. It can be a bit of a hassle because you need to recharge the batteries or change them regularly. And cabled is less convenient in the sense that you've always got cables getting in the way. Mobile users with portable computers may use a touchpad which comes with the laptop. Power users probably have the most expensive technology related to their particular field of interest. The monitor and screen is the most common output device. And the popularity of tablets and smartphones means that more applications, even Windows 8, are designed to work well with touch screens. And for most users, if you're buying a desktop with a separate monitor, an entry-level monitor will be just fine. But power users like gamers or video editors, photographers and architects often need much larger displays, or they may even connect multiple monitors to their computer. The next peripheral that many users want is a printer. It's used to create the hard copy output. We have the laser, inkjet, and dot matrix printers still being used today. The type of printer that you choose, you'll have to think about things like running costs, how fast the printer works, the print quality, which is measured in dots per inch, and does it have a wireless connection or not. And a Soho user or a personal user would often have a multifunction printer which can copy and also scan within the same machine. A mobile user may want a mobile printer that works with little batteries. And then we can talk about external storage. That's when you have a hard drive that can plug into your USB port. These are storage devices that connect to the computer. And most personal users will just use a flash drive, and that is quickest and simplest, and it's a good way of transferring data to other people or even to use for a small backup. But everybody can also use an external hard drive, and they can use it for their music or videos and parts of the data that will take more space. And all users can use cloud storage, which is storage on the internet, where you can get it either free of charge or for a certain fee that you pay per month. Soho and power users usually need much bigger external storage devices because they store a lot of pictures and multimedia, which takes more space. A scanner is another device which many users have. It captures an image of whatever is placed on the scanner, or if you have a barcode scanner that reads barcodes. Personal users will seldom need a scanner. These days you can get little scanning apps that you can put on your smartphone instead of using a scanner, or you could just take a photo and email that to whoever needs it. Soho or power users who need to scan documents and convert them into editable text, they need a good quality scanner. And then they need an OCR program, which is an optical character recognition program, which can convert text that is in a picture into text, for example, in a Word document that you can then edit. And those who run a business that deals with images and photos, they probably need to get a really good quality scanner, probably a better quality than the type that comes along with the printer in a multimedia device. So let's look at the devices that a disabled user can use. There's for the visually impaired or blind person. They can use a Braille keyboard and a Braille display, which means that it's got little bumps all over they can feel with their fingers. Magnification devices, so these are things that make part of the screen look bigger, so they can read it more easily. They can use large key keyboards and Braille printers. And then people who are deaf or hearing impaired, they can use vibration devices, so they can feel the device with their hand and get signals that way. And people with motor control issues, if they're paralyzed or have poor motor control or are arthritic, they can use eye tracking devices. So as their eyes move across the screen, it's almost like moving the mouse across, or head movement devices which follow how they move their head. Large key keyboards again, large trackballs, joysticks. There are foot pedal control devices, so you move your foot instead of using your hand. And sip and puff devices, these are devices you can operate with your mouth by sucking and blowing into a straw, and that somehow moves the mouse across the screen and so on. And that's all for today. Thank you, and see you next time.